On Point is brought to you by Dargin Global.
A very good evening and welcome to On Point. My name is Patria K.
And I'm Dennis Chung.
And we've got a lot to talk about this week. Yeah. Dennis, obviously, the top of the discussion is going to be about the performance of the athletes at the recently concluded World Championships.
Yeah, the two highlights to me were number one, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce.
Boom!
And I've just always admired her, her humility and the way she just seems to just do so much more, in terms of her effort.
Don't leave Shelley yet, because the humility and the humanity that she brought, that moment when she won her gold medal, a gold medal that was hard fought for. People were wondering whether or not Shelley was back, and she showed, I'm here and I'm here to stay. And then she celebrated her victory lap with her 2-year-old son Zion on her shoulders. Like, what other image does the world need than that? Yeah,
no, Shelley is a fantastic person. I mean, Shelley, I've always admired her a lot. Veronica, Usain, Asafa. I mean, that generation coming from that time was just remarkable. And
there's a conversation that's happening in the space of track and field about who will the new face be. In the absence of an effervescent, camera-ready, antic always Usain Bolt, what is the new personality that you bring? Who is the new personality that represents the face of track and field in the same way that you used to look at Usain Bolt and he summed up the entire field? Who do you now look to? And a working mother, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, is poised to become that face for the next Olympics.
No, I definitely think it's Shelly-Ann. I don't see anyone else who's going to take up that mantle, regrettably. But the truth is that we've been spoiled by a fantastic period. I mean, a once-in-a-lifetime period of all these great athletes, four of the fastest men in the world.
Unreal.
At the time.
One little island of less than 3 million people. We're ranked third in the world in the games, behind Kenya and the United States.
But the thing that really got me at the World Championship was the field events. Tajay.
Gold medal.
Yeah, Dakers.
Fantastic.
Thomas Dodd.
We walked away with 4 field event medals in the games this year. And
the long jump, I think it was Ricketts.
You actually accept it within 2 minds. Certainly I do, because as much as I celebrate and I say yes, because I've been wanting a diversification of the sports that we not only participate but excel in for a very long time, I also wonder, does this mean that track is in trouble?
I don't think so.
Nobody expected us to get these medals, and the tally count going into the games was anywhere between 12 and 13. We got that, but the expectation was that 12 and 13 were going to be track medals. Yeah,
but we also got some good track medals, the 4x4 women. The 4x1 women, right? I mean, they were just unfortunate, I think, in the 4x4 because they ran fantastically. Sherika Jackson in the 400. So I think we did pretty well.
But what happened to our relay men? 4x1, you could close your eyes and know Jamaica's going to start.
I think the men are in a slump right now. I think the men are in a slump. And it always comes back to that interview Bolt did where he said that the younger guys are just not putting in the time now. And I don't know if you ever read this book by Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers. He says there's no one born exceptional. People just put in more time. And I think that is what the edge that the people of those era of Bolt and Shelly-Ann had over them.
Absolutely.
But it's good that we can talk about that. But coming up, we're going to be talking to Stephen Shaw from the NWA about another important event that has been happening for over the past year, which is the roadworks, and what damage has been done to the road with the recent rains and how we're going to deal with that. But before we look at that, let's take a look back at some of the top business stories of the week.
At number 5, another multi-billion-dollar ruling against pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson. The company has been told to pay $8 billion in punitive damages to a man over claims he was not warned that an antipsychotic drug could lead to breast growth. A Philadelphia jury made the award, which Johnson & Johnson says it will appeal. At number 4, a silver lining seems to be appearing for those affected by the Thomas Cook collapse. All 555 Thomas Cook shops are to be bought by rival Hayes Travel in a move that could save up to 2,500 jobs. The independent travel agent said the move gives it shops in areas where it had little or no presence. At number 3, the Jamaican government is reporting that the first 4 months of the 2019-2020 fiscal year, that's April to July 2019, has seen revenue and grant inflows totaling just over $202 billion. This is 2% higher than budgeted and 8.9% more than the corresponding period last year. The better than budgeted outturn has been attributed to tax revenue inflows of $179.8 billion and non-tax revenue totaling $19.4 billion, which were 2.1% and 3.1% higher than their respective targets. At number 2, $38 million has been allocated to fund a forensic audit of oil losses at State Refinery Petrojam. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the allocation is a demonstration that the government is serious about getting to the bottom of the problems at Petrojam. Prime Minister Andrew Holness ordered the audit last December to explain oil losses. The Auditor General will oversee recruitment of the forensic auditor for the undertaking. At number 1, former Education Minister Ruel Reid was taken into custody early Wednesday morning following a pre-dawn raid. Also arrested were Ruel Reid's wife, his daughter, Caribbean Maritime University President Professor Fritz Pinnock, and Counsel for the Brownstown Division in St. Anne, Kim Brown Lawrence. They were charged with breaches of the Prevention of Corruption Act, conspiracy to defraud, misconduct in a public office of common law, and breaches of the Proceeds of Crime Act. They all appeared in court Thursday morning where they were granted bail.
When we come back, on point will be Jamaica's roads. Welcome back to On Point. Now, the recent rains here in Jamaica gave Jamaica a multi-million-dollar bill. Several roads crumbled under the water. But why? And where are we with the repairs? We're talking about it today with Customer Service and Communications Manager at the NWA, Stephen Shaw. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, good evening.
Thanks for coming. Stephen, roads, what's happening with the roads? It has been the talk of the town for a long time now.
Yes, I mean, and the roads will continue to be the talk of the town because most Jamaicans depend on roads to get to and fro. And, you know, all the services that we requires us driving from one place to another. And how else do we get around on the island but via road in the main? So roads will always be in the mix where discussions are concerned.
Let's get to the budgeting of what happened of the last 2 weeks. Rains. What's the actual figure that we're looking at in terms of repairs from the recent bout of rains?
Well, the Prime Minister did speak in Parliament and gave some numbers. And those numbers would have been preliminary based on what would have happened up to that time. We are still in the mode where all of those numbers are being crunched. But what I can say is that we have been able to reopen all the affected corridors in those parishes that were severely impacted. All but 2 corridors would have remained closed, and that is because we need to do significant civil works.
And those 2 are?
There is Job's Lane over in St. Catherine, that's near the motor vehicle exam depot. And then there is a road from Lower Chapelton to Rock River. And that particular corridor requires a couple of retaining walls. And we need to also replace some culverts that have collapsed beneath the road.
And I'm going to go back to the budgeting, because when you sit down for a financial year and you plan roadworks that are expected, a repair budget, it's modest, I assume.
Yes.
Nobody anticipates 2 weeks worth of rain that will decimate some roads in the country that will have to be repaired with urgency. How do you budget for that, and how do you finance that budget?
Well, we, every year, as a matter of fact, around about now, we put together a program and a budget based on the program that we would have formulated. We get funding from a couple of sources. There is the funding that we would get from what used to be the road maintenance fund. That's monies where we get a third of the motor vehicle licensing fees. And we also get budgetary support from the government otherwise. And so we will get somewhere in the region of $2.5 billion at the outset. And usually, and that is for routine
Everyday
activities.
maintenance, yes.
We will get additional funds to execute works under what we refer to as the Capital B program. So the Capital B would be like the Mandela Highway, Constant Spring Road, Hagley Park Road, South Coast Highway, and the like, those big mega projects.
But act of God, 2 weeks of rain, you're not getting additional funds to pay for that, so something will suffer.
Well, the government has the responsibility to treat with those things. Our duty is to ensure that we respond, and our response will entail cleaning and clearing, and to ensure that persons can go about and the business of the country does continue. As it relates to the payment of the bills, that is something that the Ministry of Economic Growth and the Ministry of Finance, those two ministries charged with that responsibility, they will deal with that aspect of the government.
You just get the job done.
The estimate for the damage that day was about $500 million, no? Wasn't it?
It's somewhere in the region of over 600 million.
Over 600 million.
And that would have included events coming from April up.
But one of the things I want to ask, so Stephen, I from time to time I meet upon Mark Barnett from NWC, right?
Yes.
And it seems as if, even we're doing some roads and things, but we really have an infrastructural problem. Our infrastructure is really crumbling.
You know, we do have an infrastructure problem.
Yeah.
What have we been doing as it relates to the problem that we have? So we have put together some programs, with the latest being the Major Infrastructure Development Program, through which we have treated with significant portions of our network. And we have used a different approach in that hitherto, where a road will be built, drains put in, but the effort to put in or to improve the water infrastructure or the sewage infrastructure would not have been part and parcel of the overall road construction.
And you guys got licks for that.
And rightly so. Now, the government has taken a different approach in executing these works. So we are doing, not the road is coming at the back end of all the other infrastructural works. So in effect, you have 4 projects or 5 going on at the same time. So we're improving the sewage infrastructure, or putting in where none exists.
Yes.
We're improving the water delivery. We're removing poles, putting in sidewalks, and then we are putting in the roads. Also, the telecommunications companies use the opportunity to also upgrade their own infrastructure.
But we still have moments where there are repairs, because Dennis talks about an aging infrastructure. We have old pipes, and there are very many times that the road has to be dug up to be able to access that.
Yes.
Whose responsibility is it to fix that road after it's dug up?
If, let us say, we have completed the activities, everything is back to normal, there is a burst pipe beneath the road, it is the authority with responsibility for water, in this case, NWC, that will be responsible for, first of all, fixing the leak, and there will be some engagement afterwards where the fixing of the particular bit of road is concerned, based on the more recent discussions that we have been having between the two entities.
So that repair would be done by you at NWC's expense?
That is based on the agreement that we would have at that particular time between ourselves and the NWC. If that is the arrangement, then that is what is going to be done.
Because the complaint of many is the quality of those repairs that's done.
Yes.
The time frame in which those repairs are done, and the actual quality of the work. NWC can't come back and check that it was done properly because they don't know what they're checking for.
Yes.
NWA is the road authority. And there's the sentiment, the feeling that if there are road works done and a repair eventually happens, it's substandard.
Yeah, and we have heard the complaints, and we have actually seen some of these things. We have written, and that is why I think there is a greater effort at collaborating, at having the particular entity with the know-how doing that which they are competent and capable of doing. And so if the Water Commission in this instance, there is no doubt that they are the water authority. They know much more about the movement of water and how to fix leaks and so on than we do. Our job is to ensure that the road stands up after all of that would have been done. There are times when the Water Commission may engage private contractors to carry out its work. In recent times, we have been engaged to carry out those types of repairs, and that agreement is in force, and it continues to be honored by both sides.
But as Patricia is saying, though, shouldn't it be a policy that anything to do with the road is done by NWA, and then whatever organization is so compensated for?
Well, I mean, when it comes to policy and where policy goes or doesn't go, at our level, at the operational level, we really have no control. So that is something that you would better direct at the policymakers and not at the operational individuals such as myself.
Because we've suffered because of that, for a very long time. I mean, I see the improvements in terms of the collaboration that takes place between NWC and NWA. But as Patricia said, the quality of the roads. I mean, NWC is, it's like you're sending a tailor to do a carpenter job. Because their expertise is just not fixing road.
As I said, and we have recognized, as I've said earlier, the challenges and the difficulties that the arrangements that existed hitherto, where you have one silo here, another silo there, and then the two are not really on the same level.
And they're under two separate ministries, eh?
Right now, we're under the same ministry, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation.
Let me ask a stupid question. Roads have a warranty?
The contract. When you do work with a certain value, you have what is referred to as a defects liability period, and that period may go up to a year. depending on the size of the contract. Now, there is an argument that has been put forward, and there are some persons within the organization who shares the view that we should have a longer period where if defects appear, then the contractor will be responsible, subject to different things. And so when you have let us say, a Mandela Highway, where you'd have spent roughly $65 million US, and you have a defects period for a year, I mean, you see, something you can't, one could make an argument that period is too short for such an expenditure.
But even
but
on the other
that
end,
is something that again, policymakers will have to look at.
Even on the other end, if we don't go as far as the $65 million US Mandela Highway, people will tell you that there's a pothole in my community that is notorious.
Right.
That if it is fixed today, I guarantee you in 3 months it will appear again for another bout of repairs. That second and third and fourth bout of repairs. Is NWC paying for that? Are taxpayers paying for that? Or is that contractor coming back to fix it?
I need to put that pothole into perspective. Now, many times when we go out and patch a road, it is because there is an inherent weakness in the surface and or base of that particular road. So you have a breakdown, the surface might have oxidized, old, aged, it cracks and lends itself to bits and pieces popping out, especially whenever you have heavy rains, as we have experienced in recent times. So you go and you patch that hole. But the cracks are there, maybe not visible to you driving by, but if you should come out of your car and look, you'll see those what we refer to as crocodile cracks. That crack is beside that area that was patched.
Okay.
Water seeps into that.
And leak under it again.
And it pops back out.
I mean, because that area is newly done, it's more vulnerable.
Sometimes there is that. Other times, you may have a leak that is beneath the road, or you may have subsurface water, a storm water that is flowing beneath the surface of the road. So there are many different things that could have or that can contribute to one having to fix a pothole 2 or 3 times.
But who tracks that
over a period of
budget
time.
or the operations to say we have fixed this pothole 60 times at a cost of X? We need to stop now and fix the underlying problem because this is getting beyond the point at where patching it every 3 months is economically viable.
Again, we go back to the budget that we'll make for the fixing of roads. Now, if we put together a budget and we ask for, let us say, $100 million to resurface a road that has a good base, but then you're given, or the vote on that particular item is only $10 million. The only thing you can do is $10 million worth of work. So if that $10 million is really to patch an area to ensure that the road does not fall beyond a certain level, especially if it is being used, if it is being heavily used by traffic, then that is just what we have to do. So it is not something that the agency would want to do, but it is what we must, given the constraints that we are faced with on a daily basis.
Hold the thought, Stephen. When we come back, we want to talk to you about some of the extensive road work that's been going on for an extensive period of time across Kingston City. More after the break.
Welcome back to On Point. We're here speaking with Stephen Shaw, who is the manager for communications at NWA. You'd have noticed, everyone would have noticed about the roadworks that have been going on over the past year, Stephen? Or so, over a year
and a half.
Yeah.
2 years, yes.
So I know that's what we want to start with.
We want to find out
what's happening with the road repairs.
We have made significant progress, and I can speak to start in the west, the road from Ferris to Macfield. If you have not been in the west in recent times, then I invite you to take a Sunday ride out that side. You'll be pleasantly surprised at the new road and the quality road that is there for persons to travel easier between Montego Bay and Savannah Lamar, Black River, and so on.
That's going over the hill?
No, it's actually when you reach the Ferris, traveling from the border of Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Fonthill, White House, coming through Cave, all the way down. Yes, Belmont. Yeah, you take that right turn when you get at the gas station at Ferris, and it takes you to through Deans Valley, Withorn, Haddo, and those places heading towards Montego Bay.
And it's not just resurfacing of that road. That road is actually also being
reconstructed.
Yes.
Corners have been taken out, new alignment, as I said, new bit of road, wide, can accommodate the types of vehicles that are now using our roads. Stephen,
on that, the types of vehicles, because when you go to like, and in the past, one of the criticisms is that the contractors used to work on the roads, they never do it properly, because as soon as two heavy trucks drive on it, you have a problem. St. Thomas, for example.
And then they build the trucks and say they're overloaded.
Yeah, okay, no. We do have a problem with overladen trucks. There is no getting around that. That has been scientifically proven. We have weighed, we have observed, and we know that there is a problem with our trucks being overweight.
And we do what about it? Because I've seen scales put on the side of the road.
From the standpoint of the National Works Agency, because remember, it's joint of government, our responsibility is to ensure that we design and build roads to accommodate the legal loads. Now, the legal load for, let us say, a 10-wheeler truck is 25 tons, including payload. In other words, truck and both chassis and load should not exceed 25 tons. Some trucks carry an extra axle, and that will account for an additional 5, so that truck can carry maybe 30.
Yes.
But what do we have? We have vehicles carrying upwards of 40 tons. And that not only does damage to the roads, but also to the very vehicles that they're driving. You know, and the truth is, many of these operators, these drivers, they are aware of the fact that they're overloading. They're also aware of the penalties, but some of them are not aware of the potential damage, and not just potential, the actual damage that they're doing to their vehicles. And I have to know this.
This must be hard to enforce, though, Stephen. How do you look at a truck? How do you police this in a way to ensure that you catch the culprit?
We have, again, you're taking me outside of
the NWA's realm. Absolutely.
Right. But that is really for the Ministry of Transport to treat with. And I know that it is something that has received their attention and is receiving their attention through the way stations. The police have been working with the Island Traffic Authority where they have mobile skills. I can't speak to, how frequent they do these spot checks, but I'm aware of the overall program.
And I just ask you because it's going to require a joint-up approach. It's going to require a multi-pronged effort because you have to deal with the consequences of an overladen truck. How do the various players come in and function to ensure that taxpayers don't have to fix another road because of a heavy truck?
And from our standpoint, what we're doing is that in designing these roads, we take into account the fact of the heavier vehicles, not just the vehicles plus the load, but the vehicles in and of themselves are bigger, heavier than those that would have been using our roads when these roads were designed.
I want to get back. Go ahead.
So that is part and parcel of the consideration when we design and build new roads.
Stephen, what does it do to your budget if you were to design for a 30-ton truck rather than a 40-ton truck? That's a significant increase in the budget, eh?
It is, because you have to look at the amount of base that you're going to be putting on. You may have to, if the subgrade is not as solid as you would want it to be, you have to ensure that you get a very good subgrade, because a lot of times the failure is not just in the base, but the failure is deep
below it.
And so you have to then go in and you have to excavate, take out what we call the bad material, put in good material, compact, and then come up. So all of that we have to consider. If you for the base, sometimes, and we have used to good effect. For example, Marcus Garvey Drive, we did a stabilized base. This is where we actually mix the material, the fines, the stones, with cement, and we spread it, damp it a little bit, roll it, and so it's harder. It's like a concrete road almost when you're finished with that. But of course, there's a cost.
Absolutely. We've veered off a little bit, and I don't want us to not get the update on the big projects that are out there. We started in the west. I want to jump over to the east. 2 projects in particular. 1 junction, 2 that St. Thomas to Portland stretch.
All right. The junction road is continuing. We are at a point now where we are still excavating in an area that is exceedingly precarious. We have had to restrict the movement of vehicular traffic for every day as we continue with the extensive earth movement and also the blasting of huge rocks in that area near the Broadgate community. We expect that by the end of this month, we should be significantly there as it relates to completing the heavy lifting along that particular corridor. Subject, of course, to the weather allowing the contractor to do the kind of work that is necessary, because we have had some setbacks during this period when we have had the inclement weather.
People are most interested in the end dates. Inclement weather, setbacks, they want to know when will this be over.
And so I would say now we're just going into the second week of October. I would say, I can say a little bit more after the end of next week, when the contractor would have done quite a bit of work, and then we'll be in a position to assess where they are, what is left to be done as it relates to the heavy lifting. And so we'll be in a position to possibly speak to
some criticisms though about that particular leg.
Yes.
People are feeling like it's moving slower than certainly some of the other projects that we would have seen underway.
And it's not just a feeling, it is factual that it had been moving a little slowly. And we have had conversations with the contractor. We have actually...
Is this a local contractor?
It's a local contractor.
Yes.
I think in recent weeks, they would have upped their game. And so we are seeing a bit more productivity.
I have to press you a little bit more on that, because people are making juxtapositions.
Yes.
Chinese work move fast. Local contractors are moving slower.
Yes.
And so the question is, one, does it have to be that way? And two, with all the roadworks that are happening with Chinese crews, is there no learnings that's happening on those projects that's being passed on to local contractors? Or if we want a fast road, we're going to always have to turn to the Chinese?
No, let me say, you're not comparing apples and apples here. You cannot compare a junction road with a Mandela Highway, Marcus Garvey Drive, Hagley Park Road, or a Constance Spring Road.
But you can compare it with a north-south.
But hold on. In the case of the north-south, I was not there. I cannot tell you what it is that they were actually doing, or they did. I don't know to what extent anywhere along the north-south where they had to do major cuts. They had traffic.
That took a very long time.
Live traffic, meaning persons having to go along a road every day while they were doing that. For the most part, the Chinese would have been working in what we call virgin territory.
Yes.
They had no encounters with motorists or people.
Not having to open back the road at 3 o'clock and...
Exactly. So, those little nuances, persons would not necessarily understand. They didn't have houses close by, where in carrying out your activities, you have to be mindful that you don't do anything to compromise a structure or structures nearby. So, I'm not so sure that those comparisons are reasonable.
And the soil type is different too, eh?
All of that
very much different.
Yes.
Are we learning from the Chinese?
I am sure that learning would have taken place. I am absolutely sure. I mean, I recall, I tell this story of a young lady I met some years ago, no longer in Jamaica, mark you. She worked on the Rio Grande Bridge as a steel woman, let me call her that, tying those those rebars that weighed, I don't think the three of us can lift one. That's how heavy they are. And she was so good. She learned on this project, went to Westmoreland Bridge, which is also near the junction there, and she did that work. And I believe she was recruited, and she's in Canada, I'm told, when I inquired about her. Very good. She's just one of the many persons who would have learned on the job. And, Jamaica, I think, is better for it, even though
I was going to celebrate for 2 seconds exactly, and then I hear that she gone to Canada.
No, but that opportunity to do so well and to make her life better came out of
and the hope
these projects
is that others have learned and stayed.
Many persons.
Stephen, one of the things I want to ask you though, I mean, we're happy for the roadworks, right?
Yes.
And particularly junction, I think that's a great improvement that's happening, right? But there was so much inconvenience. Couldn't it have been better organized? I think particularly about businesses that have suffered and have to close down because of the roadworks.
Well, let me lump up some others in that same question. Not just junction. Let's talk about Hagley Park. Let's talk about Constance Spring Road and those casualties of development.
Yes, in doing our own assessments, I think that there are things that could have been done differently. There are things that we will certainly take from our experiences on both projects. And I believe that the country will be in a position to judge us and see just how well or how badly we would have done, consequent on the experiences that we would have gained from the implementation of these projects.
You can't get the passing grade yet because motorists are still mourning. I hear
Yes.
people talk about their tires on Constant Spring Road, on
Yes.
sections of Marcus Garvey with exposed potholes.
No, not
Not potholes, not Marcus Garvey, on Hagley Park with exposed
All right.
manhole covers,
All right.
sharp edges.
And they're correct. But I tell you this, in the ensuing weeks, and I stand ready to be back here in a couple of programs where I'm sure the conversation is going to be much different, because at this point we are now putting on the second layer of asphalt on both Hagley Park Road and Constant Spring Road, where the manhole covers are going to be on par with those with the asphalt.
But if
Because
I leave here tonight and
Yes.
bust my tire on a manhole cover or hit up my undercarriage on one of those
Yes.
manhole covers, do I send Stephen Shaw and NWA the bill?
No, you send a bill to the
government.
contractor,
Which is who?
China Harbour.
Send the bill to China Harbour.
If you have a bill, send it to them.
But
They are the
my
contractors.
my view on it though,
Oh.
my view on it though,
Oh.
I mean,
Yes.
my view on it though, is that, I mean, I see the potholes protruding. I don't think it can damage your undercarriage or anything, but people must drive carefully.
Dennis can say that because he drives a big van. For the people with
No,
the
but
little
pe-
vehicles that are
no, but
close to
pe-
the road, they have a different
No, but people must
experience.
drive carefully. I mean, you're driving on a road and you see all of this thing. Take your time and drive.
And remember, it's a 25 km zone.
Yeah.
It's not a, even though you see blacktop, you see nice pavement, not finished, but people still treat it as an
Yes.
invitation to speed.
I get in
Shouldn't
the
be.
rap signal. On the, the vein of not finished, when will all this, certainly within the KMTR, when will it be finished?
At the end of this month, I think we are going to be significantly there. We have a couple of things that must be done, and these are crucial. We want to ensure that all the new pipelines are tested, given the green light, and the old lines that continue to leak like a sieve, these are retired. Because, like you said earlier, or Dennis might have said it, doesn't make any sense we have a new road,
Yeah.
and so often we have breaks in this old line, which is going to be causing problems for all and sundry. So we want to ensure that all the tests are done, new lines pass, cut over takes place, people are put on the new system, and we should be good.
Are
I
we
agree.
carrying these roadworks into 2020?
I believe,
You must have some, yeah.
based on where we are now, and the fact I spoke to earlier of a defects liability period, from that standpoint, yes.
The only thing I would say, Stephen, is as we continue this well-needed work, we must ensure that there's as little disruption as possible to businesses, because it makes
Too
no
late
sense.
for
Yeah.
that. On that note, folks, we're going to have to wrap it. Stephen Shaw, we will call you back closer to 2020 to find out what's going on with the relationship between yourselves and the contractor and
Yes.
where we are with the work. Thanks for
I'm
talking
happy
to
to
us.
be here. Thank you.
All right, folks. So take a quick break. When we come back, more On Point. Welcome back to On Point. Extreme highs and lows for Jamaica at the recently concluded IAAF World Championships. We left the games with a proud 12-medal haul, our second highest ever since competing in the games. What did the numbers really look like for Jamaica? Take a look.
Jamaica's medal haul placed the country third on the overall table behind Kenya second and the USA on top. 43 countries won medals and athletes from 68 different nations achieved at least one top 8 placing. 209 of the 214 member federations of the IAAF participated in the 2019 Track and Field World Championships. 1,972 athletes entered the tournament, 1,054 men and 918 women. A total of 101 federations entered one athlete only. Jamaica entered 55, while the US had the largest contingent with 159 athletes. It was a championship of records. There were 3 world records, 6 championship records, 20 area records, and 80 national records.
And our on-point team hit the streets and asks, what's your take on Jamaica's recent performance at the just concluded IAAF World Champs?
I think they did quite well, because considering who went there, they did pretty well, and considering what happened before when they were really at the top of the game, they did pretty well, I think, especially the women and the field events. They did quite well.
I believe they have done very, very well, win or lose, and bring in Jamaica team, because the training that they're going through, I could not do it. And whether they made it or not, I think we all should appreciate them.
Well, we do great and excellent, and God bless them and keep them. Yeah, I'm happy for them. I'm really happy.
They did good. I'm happy and glad for their performance, you know? Yeah, so glad how they really go on, and the Chinese them drop them look button pan them look really about. They look blunder there, but the Jamaican them go on good so far. 100%, and you know, Shelley Fraser-Pryce has been crowned the queen and the hottest woman in the world right now. That's a good thing. Nobody can take the title left on her again. She gone on road.
I was pleased. Wonderful. I mean, what more could I ask for? After Bolt, no people wasn't expecting would I get 12 medal. Really didn't matter the color, we still get gold. And that is wonderful. It goes well for the future. Come next year at the Olympic, I'm really looking forward to it.
Our overall performance, people say it's promising, but I think it's dwindling. I think we need a new crop of runners. We need to invest more. We should have been investing, but I think where we fall short was that we weren't preparing properly for Bolt's departure. And it's obvious they're trying to be optimistic in the media, saying that, you know, they did well and there's a bright future ahead, which I don't see, because I honestly believe that Shelley can't go any further.
I think we did very well, because you know, during the Usain Bolt era, people were thinking like, what is going to happen after? And so I think for what we did in both the track and the field events, I think that was very well done. I'm so happy for us.
There is interesting discussion there not too long ago with Stephen Shaw. I appreciate the fact that he's always available to face the music. However, what he has to say sometimes isn't pleasant news for the people of Jamaica.
No, it isn't. But you know, in talking to Matt Barnett, NWC, and other persons, you find that you appreciate the fact about the age of the infrastructure we have in the country. Pipes are over 50 years old. You know, talking to someone from KSAC, they said that the pipes are held together by the dirt because it's in place. And once you start pummeling a road, a new road, everything just goes. You know, it's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of planning. It's not something that's overnight. It's going to be a lot of work also to get down there and correct everything. I was just talking to Matt Barnett today, and he's saying that people don't understand that when you put a new pipe in place, you have to not just lay it, but you have to flush it out, make sure everything runs, make sure it can take the pressure, because if you don't do all that preparatory thing, he said it can actually get you sick, the new pipes, if you don't flush it out properly.
Totally understood. With regards to the NWA and the work that they do, one of the fears is that 2 weeks of rain is act of God, and 2 weeks of rain could easily happen next month and the month after and the month after. And when you're talking about almost $600 million worth of rainfall in one financial year, You have no control over when it will rain, when it will rain heavy. You have no control. He said it since April. You don't know when hurricanes will come. You don't know when, because Jamaica has that old infrastructure, we don't need a hurricane or a storm for a road network to crumble. You need a little bit of rain.
Just a little bit. And then compound it with all of the fact now that people not disposing of the garbage properly. So everything blocked up, you know. It's just a huge problem, you know, the infrastructure, the indiscipline issue. So I understand what they're going through. My only thing with the roadworks is that it could have been organized in a better way so that it doesn't affect people's businesses. Because, I mean, it's one thing for them to say, well, we've learned, but the fact of the matter is that the people whose business had to close, they'd have a second chance.
Absolutely. Part of the legacy of the legacy roads is going to be the pain of progress.
Yeah.
People are going to talk about the inconvenience, and I don't think any beautiful carpet, Barber green carpet, is going to undo in people's minds the kind of inconvenience, and for some businesses the actual financial loss that this would have cost
people
them.
Might have been mortgaging the houses and all of those things. So, you know, I personally, I know it started from when I was at the PSOG, and I used to say to the government, give these people a tax break. Exempt them once you're working on it, exempt them from taxation for the period that you're working on the roads.
Another point that I raised with Stephen that I really do take seriously is, whereas I don't have a difficulty with our dependence on a foreign nation state at start to be able to do some of these big projects, it can't redound only to the financial benefit of that foreign nation state. And it can't be that we only get roads. They've got to be something more. And so for me, the learnings about how to build a road quick and fast and well, that it will stand up to the test of time, has to be learnings that's passed on to Jamaican people. So that 10 years down the road, when we have another big road project, we don't have to be running to the Chinese.
Yeah, the problem though, you know, is not just the learnings, you know, is that when the problem that Jamaican contractors have been faced with and had blighted the reputation of many good contractors is that a lot of them, because of political connections, and they're supposed to put on 2 layers of asphalt and they put on 1, right? And then the problem that Jamaican workers have had is that any little thing you carry in the union and you strike. You remember what Motti had said at the time? When the lady called and said, 1 Chinese, the 5 Jamaican work. You know, that's telling. And these are some of the issues that I think have plagued us.
Well, folks, we'll continue to deal with issues right here on Point. We thank you for joining us. Thanks also to the very hardworking crew that makes this show happen every single week. Until next time, I'm Patria K.
And I'm Dennis Chung.
Keep staying on point.
On Point was brought to you by Dodge & Global.